Hey there guys, CrossFlux here, and welcome back to more Let's Play World to the West Blind. In the last episode, as per usual with these videos, I ended up exploring quite a bit more of the land in hopes of finding more scrolls and health shrines. But in today's episode, I'll be honest guys, I was getting a little tired with how long it's been taking me to find some stuff. So, I have a confession to make. I caved and I cheated. I had to use a guide. I could not figure out for the life of me how to get Lumina over here to this scroll. So I looked it up, and it turns out that flail monks are able to collect scrolls and bring them back. Yeah, how you're supposed to figure that out on your own, I will never know, because this is the only time in the game that I can see of where this would be useful. But we now have that scroll. And with that being said, I also looked up where the last two scrolls are as well, so please don't be upset. But it was taking me an ungodly amount of time to figure this out on my own, and I understand that these parts of the videos, or this part of the Let's Play, is a bit boring and repetitive. There's no story to keep anything connected together. There's no difference between each part. It's literally just me wandering around each episode trying to figure out what I should do next. So, I for one am getting sick of it, and I'm the one making the video. So if I'm getting sick of it, I'm sure you guys are getting a little bored too. So, I decided to just go ahead and try and speed things up just a little bit more. Alright, so with that scroll out the way, we only have the two remaining underground scrolls left. The one that's here on the map, and sorry, no, just one underground. The one that's over there, and the one in this screen that I have yet to be in. But I'll save that one for last. So, real quick, I'm going to head back into town and swap to Clonington. Because, even though this scroll that I'm hunting currently is underground, you actually have to get to it from above ground. I'm really surprised I didn't see this spot on my own, but I guess it is a fairly small detail to overlook. But alright, so you see right smack dab in the center of the screen, on the map, you can see that there's a tiny little raised cliff with a tiny dot in it. That is a little section that can climb down into the underground. And so, that's basically how we get that one underground scroll. I had initially thought that I had to go into one of the surrounding underground areas and use a particular character to try and like break down a wall or something along those lines. But turns out you don't need to do that at all. You basically just need to head on down the path that I'm taking. Hopefully not waste time by bull rushing into trees or anything like that. And collecting the scroll by just taking a ladder. Yeah, pretty simple. So here's what I'm talking about. Right up here in this screen. Hop down here. You can do this as any character, as far as I can tell. And bam. Just like that, we're down to our final scroll. No single word from Chal would end Plalock's terrible reign. Alright, so we're so close. Once we get to the end and collect every single scroll, I'm going to sit down and read it in a straight line and kind of interpret what I think the story to be. And I would love to hear your guys' thoughts and ideas about the story in the comments below. But to save a little bit more time, I'm going to cut out the rest of my journey back to Carte Blanche. Alright, here we go guys. It'll take just a few seconds for us to get to the final scroll. So, you may be wondering why I am starting underground if the scroll is to be found above ground. Well, after quite a bit of trial and error, I determined that it is impossible to access this screen anywhere from the overworld. But, as it turns out, in this little underground area, if you pay close enough attention to the map, it looks like this little hallway here extends further to the left. The reason it's unexplored is you need the final upgrade for Lumina to access it. And of course this is the temple where you get that upgrade, and excuse me dude, I'm trying to get over there. But yeah, so you get the upgrade for this, well, the upgrade for the upgrade? No. You get this upgrade in this temple, but it's after this point in the temple. So unless you did some backtracking, there's no way you would have seen this on your first time. But yeah, so coming through here, bam, all 36 scrolls, baby. Let's take a look-see, shall we? And of course, how fitting that it would be the final scroll in the timeline. But alright, so starting from the very beginning, what do we have? The founder came on a ship spotting fertile land. By her command, the people made it theirs, and she laid the roots of her greatest masterpiece. So based on the picture of this founder chick, it appears to be Miss Tennock. There's obviously no proof. As far as I know, these scrolls only refer to this character as the founder, but I'm pretty sure that's Miss Tennock. 4 wise disciples gathered under her word. Mishlan loved death and life, Xenu loved future and past, and Chal and Tlaloc loved rain, sun and sky, and each other even more. So the founder had 4 people, apparently, that were really enthused with how she led, and she decided to impart her wisdom to them. But what's interesting is they each kind of had their own area of expertise. So I think these might come into play later. But yes, so then at last the founder's work bore fruit, and in that she had great hope. Through the essence blue, it might grant endless life. But the truth of this boon was yet to be revealed. So yes, this founder is the person responsible for creating the fruit tree that gives eternal life that we have seen previously in Teslagrad as well. In time, her mind grew powerful, but her thoughts grew dark and grim. The keeper of time, her most trusted one, was appointed in her stead. Xenu ruled as best he could, and the people flourished. So, over time, the founder is, who knows how old she is, right? So she ended up gaining a lot of intelligence and wisdom, living for, beyond her normal years. But with all that time, she probably got tired of seeing the rise and fall of people and seeing human nature. I mean, that can really grate on you for so long. Obviously, these are kind of my impressions that I get from reading the story. So obviously, if you guys come to a different conclusion about how these characters feel and their motivations, again, please let me know in the comments. I definitely want to hear what everyone takes away from these characters. Because, well, it's left fairly vague even with dialogue. So, Xenu was her most trusted advisor, or disciple, or whatever. Of the disciples, one felt that his counsel was much overlooked. That is Mishlan, I believe. And he gave the disciples the fruits from the founder's tree. So apparently he decided that he wanted to make everyone live forever as well. Maybe he did that because he was hoping that maybe if he lived a lot longer, he would eventually have his own chance to shine. Or maybe he saw how upset and grim the founder became. He wanted to get back at the rest of the disciples by having them share the same fate. But alone on his throne, Xenu now felt despair descend. He worried for the future and what was to be his final fate. So a lens he crafted to see the threads of times unfold. And through the lens, Xenu saw only ruin and despair. So, yeah, I guess that brings up an interesting plot too. That fruit definitely extends your life force. Who knows how long, but it definitely extends it quite a bit. And I could imagine someone in that position eventually becoming paranoid. Having been in a position of power for that long, can you imagine all the stuff that you'd have to deal with? And then, you begin to worry about when your time will come. I can definitely see why he would want to go out of his way to see this time stuff, especially since he was always fascinated by time. But moving on, he brought his vision to the founder and pleaded for her to return. Together they toiled, attempting to change their people's fate. The land became neglected as the great task commenced. So he wanted to fall back on the leadership and the wisdom of the founder, and she ended up deciding to help him, it seems. And that picture that they show in the rightmost scroll here, that looks like the design they've showed multiple times that represents the weather machine. So perhaps Xenu saw basically the land be wiped out, or something along those lines. So he decided to invent the weather machine so that they could control the weather to make it so that this terrible thing never happened. At least that's what I get out of it. So, their beloved people fell by the wayside forgotten. Mishlan's most dreaded vision was now complete. Mishlan, Chal, and Tlaloc moved to cast Xenu from his throne. So, apparently, since they spent so much time trying to protect the people in the land, that they ended up forgetting that one of the most important things about being a leader is to, lead by example and to literally get to know these people that you're ruling instead of being so distant. And so, after years of however long it took them to build this, perhaps even using them more or less as possibly slaves to help get this done, everyone was upset with how Xenu and the founder were treating them. So Mishlan, Chal, and Tlaloc tried to get rid of him. The founder fled in the chaos, never seen again. Mishlan, in his anger, struck Xenu down. His endless life now ended. And horrified at the brutality, Chal and Tlaloc railed. I still don't know what that means. But, so apparently Xenu was the one who convinced Chal and Tlaloc to help him take Xenu out. Perhaps this is his plan all along. He wanted to kind of have subterfuge and create chaos and dissonance between everyone so that he could claim power for himself. But it seems the founder got away. She was never killed, which is more proof, or not proof, but more evidence that my theory that the founder and Miss Tennock are one and the same. Perhaps that's why people don't recognize her anymore. Perhaps she took on the name Miss Tennock to distinguish herself from what she used to be. But Chal was shocked by Mishlan's action, and she bade Tlaloc act. They had the people take Mishlan and punish him for his deed. So Mishlan rotted in the dark, while Chal and Tlaloc ruled. So apparently Mishlan's plan backfired. If he wanted to take control of the throne for himself, I guess he didn't anticipate on Chal and Tlaloc being upset with just how brutal Mishlan's actions were. Perhaps they didn't want him to kill Xenu just to remove him from the throne. And since he did kill him, they decided that Mishlan could not be a good leader as well, and so they took it upon themselves to rule. Through their power, Chal and Tlaloc gave bounty to the land. But Tlaloc's mind grew dark, and the people's gifts would please him no more. For long dark years he would use his might to make his wrath known. So it seems that they started to go on the right path. They started to focus more on bringing happiness and leading the people well. But since they did partake of that fruit the same as the founder did, after so long in power, I guess that power eventually corrupted them. No single word from Chal would end Tlaloc's terrible reign. In the end, Chal would call down the sky to end the blue fruit cycle. And so the world ended. Just a handful were left to start the world anew. Okay, so this is actually pretty interesting. Is it possible that this destruction of the land that was caused by this weather machine that Chal wielded, is that what Mishlan, or not Mishlan, but Xenu saw here in his rule? I might have skipped it. Yeah, here. Is that the devastation that Xenu saw? The complete wiping out of the culture and the bounty of this land, of the continent. But perhaps because of that fear of that future, he ended up causing it. Because if it's true that the weather machine was what caused that terrible event, then the building of the weather machine inadvertently caused that destruction. So Xenu acting to try and change the future is what caused that future to happen. That's pretty interesting if that's actually the case. But also something else I just thought of. I remember I had initially asked why there were so few of the Native American people seen here in this continent, and that's because many of them were wiped out. They probably only had a handful left to rebuild their population, and that's why they have relics of stuff. And the only one who seems to really know too much about anything is Miss Tennock, which again is evidence that she may in fact be the founder. Especially also now that I've recalled, she did specifically tell the four protagonists that we play that she previously had 4 disciples that followed her, and that she had made a terrible mistake. So, yeah, I'm almost 100% sure that Miss Tennock is the founder. But man. Okay, I apologize, guys. I did not mean to take up that much time of the video going over the story. But now that all the pieces are together, I'm really glad I did take a look at it. Because it's very interesting, and I definitely want to see more of these people and their plans and kind of their culture, what they were like, and all that stuff. But yeah, well, one thing's for sure. Now that we have all 36 scrolls, I want to see what is behind this door over here. The door that was locked by the 36 scrolls. Surely there's something over here for us. Yeah, I believe going north was to that boss fight, but I need to head over to the left. Alright. I did not exactly set a timer this episode because I'm a dork, but I do have a general idea of how long the video's been going on. So, hopefully I can at least show a little bit of what's behind here, because I do not know myself. But, oh, that feels so good, being able to put in all 36 scrolls. Took a lot of time and effort, but I think it paid off. Alright, we got a totem here so that we can warp back for ease of convenience. But it looks like there's some stuff for each character to do here, which kind of makes sense. Alright, so what's past here? This leads into, okay, this screen. Interesting. But now what? Okay. So it didn't really go anywhere? Really? That's interesting. So I can't help but feel that there's kind of a parallel. If Miss Tennock and the Founder are one and the same, which, again, I really think is the case, then it's kind of interesting that her 4 initial disciples are kind of, like, mirrored or whatever by the 4 main protagonists here. Like, isn't that kind of interesting that there's 4 characters now and 4 then? I wonder if the way those characters were, Mishlan, Xenu, Chal, and Tlaloc, say anything about the characters of Teri, Knaus, Lumina, and Clonington. Because honestly, we don't get too much about these characters. I don't really feel like I know Lumina. I don't know Knaus or Clonington or Teri or any of them. We didn't really get a lot of dialogue between any of them. But, okay, I feel bad that was kind of a dud. I mean, maybe I overlooked something. I'll probably warp back, but there's no time for me to do it this episode. So I thank you all so much for watching. I hope this little lore section of the Let's Play was interesting. I know I, for one, am excited, and I definitely want to see what's back there in those rooms. I'm sure I overlooked something, so I'll come back to that at the start of the next episode. But, as always, please remember to have a blessed day, and until next time, I'll see you then.